Welcome back to Hidden Power. This is a Pokemon podcast. Today's discussion is going to be a conversation, a deep dive into the Pokemon games and the franchise as a whole. As we look forward to Pokemon Legends ZA in 2025, we want to look backwards to the games that came before. Games like Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, all the way back to the very beginning in Kanto with Generation 1. We want to look at these games, dissect them, pull out what these games did right, and leave behind their shortcomings. But we're also going to look forward into the future to see what Pokemon games in Generation 10 could look like. My name is DustyGogoat, and with me today to help us through this discussion is the face and voice of Redirect. Today I'm joined by AJ. What's up, AJ? How you doing today?
Hi, hello.
How you been? I'm so glad you're here, buddy. Tell the people who you are, what your background is, why you're on the show today. I'm really excited to talk about Pokemon Legends ZA and the future of Pokemon.
I am AJ. I run a channel called Redirect on YouTube and Twitch. I make video essays and I stream pretty much whatever I want. Right now I'm in this huge Pokemon mood where I'm just doing a bunch of Pokemon related content. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I'm just a guy that's passionate about games and I like to talk about them.
I mean, I've been watching your channel for a long time. You've been in the game for a long time. I just watched one of your older videos. It was like in the lead up of the Switch itself. So I think this is going to be a fun conversation. Actually, tell me this. When did you start playing Pokemon?
When I was like 4.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
That's like a nice baseline.
So I was at my babysitter's house and I saw the anime and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then I went home and I told my dad, I was like, this is cool. And he said, okay, fine. And one day he took me to go see Mulan.
Yeah.
The Disney one, the cartoon.
Yeah.
And he got bored and he was like, I don't want to watch this.
Mulan was sick. That was like literally one of my favorite Disney movies.
I know, he's crazy, but I was like, I really want to watch this movie. That's messed up. He's like, I'll take you to go get a Game Boy and Pokemon. I was like, okay, forget this movie. Let's go.
You just abandoned your morals immediately.
Yes.
You're like,
absolutely.
Mulan's for girls and it's not cool. I'm getting Pokemon.
I'm getting my Game Boy.
Yeah.
I'm getting my Charizard, and the rest was history from there.
Yeah, but for the record, Mulan is a sick movie. I mean, there's technically dragons. I think Mushu counts as he's literally a dragon.
He is a dragon.
And there's sword fighting. It's basically like it's like Chinese Game of Thrones. It's sick.
Yeah.
It's sick. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. AJ, so we got the announcement of Pokemon Legends ZA. I feel like this is kind of like, it's still crazy, right? We're about 2 months out from the reveal of this new game. The game's not supposed to come out until 2025. Probably, I'm assuming it's going to come out in the early part of 2025. But we're a long way away. We don't have any additional information. But I think it's still, I don't know. I think every time I think back, I go, it's Pokemon Legends ZA is an actual game. It kind of blows my mind for all the possibilities. I'd love to get your first reaction at the existence of this game. And then we can dive into a little bit further what the implications of what this game could look like.
Okay, so I'm going to get lambasted for this. I was kind of disappointed, to be honest.
Oh shoot!
Because okay, so here's the thing.
Right.
I loved Legends Arceus as I was playing it, and I loved the idea of Legends Arceus. But Legends Arceus in execution was really what I wanted it to be, and that ended up being something that doesn't really translate well to being a series. And that was more of like a proof of concept thing.
So what do you define, like, what do you think defines a Pokemon Legends style game? Because maybe we can start there.
So I think the key differentiating factors there are the real time like catching mechanics. Yeah. The ability to like do stealth and like throw the Pokeball at the Pokemon and I have to engage them in battle. Bait them with bait that sort of situation. They may or may not maintain the battle styles. The side of it where you're from a different time period and you get, isekai'd into this thing and it's like, we're scared of Pokemon, but you're not scared of Pokemon. Help us. That I think is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really the gist of it. I think that also, which
but there's
I guess
exploration, there's crafting. I think if I can just interject, I think at its core, what a Legends game is, at least what it's been communicated to us as, at least, there's no patterns. There's been one game.
Yeah, one game. Yeah.
But I think what it is, I think the defining factor is that the perspective is actually from the main character, or at least maybe not the perspective. It's like the perspective of the perspective as the person playing the game. Our focus is on the human character rather than the Pokemon themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in within that, it's like, well, how am I going to survive? What's my role in this? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the exploration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is all stuff that I like about it.
Yeah.
But parts that I don't like about it is that who is still playing Legends Arceus right now?
I don't know, man. I feel like I am a person who replays. I was watching one of your videos. No one else listening to this has probably just looked at your whole back catalog of Pokemon videos. But I just did this in preparation for this conversation today. And one of your older videos, you were kind of calling people out, saying like, a lot of people have like backlogs, or they're always looking forward but not actually enjoying what we already have, right?
You might have watched a video I made this week. I think that you're quoting.
They're all mixed up. They're all mixed up. Yeah. Oh, is that?
That's fair.
Yeah. And I think I think I am. I am someone on my channel. I am someone on this podcast who does look forward to the future. But it's because I'm excited and because I like what happens in the past, and I want to see reiterations, and I want to see like a fleshing out of the lore, right? I want new characters. I want to like see more of this universe, this Pokemon universe, and I think the Legend style games are great. While the main series, like chronologically, while the main series is always moving forward, right? Like I would say, like the core generation games, right? Like I think. We don't exactly know, but it's like Generation 7 happens, and then Generation 8 is like a couple years later. Generation 9 is a couple years later, right? You can see the technology in the world advances. Right. The Legends games are literally so far back that now they can retcon all this old stuff and give us new information that informs like what is going to happen in the main series. So I think it's like, the fact that Legends is now a sub-series is so great because of that. Like I think the title Legends, it communicates to me that it's about the legends of the Pokemon universe, right? So I don't know, it's exciting, and I'm like, what are they gonna do? Oh, are they gonna dive into Zygarde? Are they gonna tie into Diancie?
Give us any of the stuff that they didn't give us.
Exactly, yeah, all the stuff that we didn't get in X and Y. So I kind of cut you off, but yeah. So what do you think it is? So you said you don't think anyone's replaying Legends Arceus, and I think people are. Although we just had, I don't know, I have been hearing that sentiment more and more recently.
I think
some people aren't playing it.
That people like us, and not me specifically, but people like us, Pokemon freaking maniacs.
Yeah, Pokemaniacs, literally psychos.
Yeah, are replaying this game, right? But I more so mean like the general, like not necessarily like casual gamers, but just the general consensus of people that are playing Switch still. And that's not because Arceus is a bad game. It's not because people don't like it. It's just not designed to continue to play it in a natural way. Like the only way to play Arceus naturally, like more, is to replay it.
Dude,
which I don't think,
I agree with you.
Yeah. So with the other like mainline Pokemon games, I still regularly play Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah, wow.
I'm still playing that game,
and you're still playing your original file.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I still do Dynamax Adventures with my friend Lee on stream.
Okay.
We're trying to get Shiny Zygarde before
link in the description.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just I like the ability to like have this, isolated world that continues to live on versus like this little snapshot that I played through once and I enjoy my time with it, sure. But once it's done, and there's nothing else I can do with that.
That's really cool, man. So, okay, I'm starting to something's being illustrated to me right now. Like I think there's kind of a divide, and this is something that I have been aware of. Right, there is two different types of players, but I'm realizing in this conversation, you're the kind of person who likes to have their living like playthrough, or their living. It's like a living experience, a living online game. Right, there's constant updates. You can continue to. And I think there's a place for that, and I think Pokemon has definitely leaned into that recently. It's like Animal Crossing, right? It's like you have your file from 2020, from the COVID era, and you're still playing it, right?
Exactly.
But I'm realizing I replay old games. I replay Gen 3. I replay Gen 4. Like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Diamond and Pearl. I replay Gen 5 a lot. I don't replay the newer games as much. Probably because they rely so much.
Because they're not designed.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe this is the divide. And Legends Arceus is a game that I've played like 5 times. Like I've just like reset it. And I think what Legends Arceus gives us and the experience it is, it's literally just like it's like a tight narrative, right? And I think that's why people like it, right? It's like
but that's the thing. I think that's the divide within even that for me, because I think we could have both. Sure. It's just the games aren't designed for both. I think, and when I say I think we can have both, I mean I think we can have both within one. Highly produced
game
product.
Yeah,
you know, like I think, and I said this in Jake's stream one time, and I got attacked for this. Where I was like, I think that Pokemon is well suited to having like a GTA model, where every generation they make one multi-billion-dollar Pokemon engine game world, so on and so forth, and they spend the console generation iterating on it and say, okay, we're dropping this new 40-hour expansion that has this new story.
Here's the new region that you can go to.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And they can do the whole like Dexit controversy or whatever. When we get this generation, it's like, all right, you got 300 Pokemon.
Yeah. And I've actually always liked that. Like I've realized with Dexit, it's actually it's a pleasure. It's a joy when Pokemon come back, right? I mean, it's false scarcity, but it is nice.
Yeah. But like in this scenario, it's like, okay, you get 200 Pokemon or 400, because that I feel like that's been the standard, is like they drop with 400 and we get 200 more in DLC or whatever. But we start in this like Gen 10 A version or whatever, and then when Gen 10B comes out, we get 200 more, and then the next year we get 200 more, until by the end of the Switch 2 generation or whatever, we have every Pokemon represented in this one engine that has 10 different regions that we can go to if you get all the expansions and all the other stuff, rather than every year or two paying for $60 games. We pay for one $60 game, and then every year or so we get $45 expansions that add to that world and let us go to these different regions. And you have the option to like do the Ash thing, where it's like, well, I got my starter in the original thing, so
I kind of love that so much. Like that like reward that actually plays to both things, right? It's like in the moment it's a living experience, but when you go back 5 years later to replay the game, you can start in whatever region you want. Right?
Exactly.
That's really cool. I do think Scarlet and Violet kind of gave me, the DLC of Scarlet and Violet kind of gave me those vibes, right? Yeah. That was, I don't know if it was the first, but it was really impactful to me that we played through Scarlet and Violet, and then we didn't get DLC in the neighboring region, right? We went to a Japanese-inspired region of Kitakami, which isn't even like canonically related to any other region that we've been to before. Which sidebar, it'd be sick if like that's a hint towards the Gen 10 region.
What we're doing next.
Yeah, right. That'd be sick. And then we also go back to this like new area in Unova, right? Which is the New York City region, which is, I mean, I think that's really cool. And it kind of gives me the same vibe that you're describing.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of like the way I think about Pokemon is informed by how I discovered it. I discovered it through the anime. So like a lot of the stuff that they do, it makes Pokemon, like that world, feel a lot bigger than the games do. Like the game started as like this thing that's inspired by Dragon Quest. So I think a lot of people that discovered it through that and have that direct knowledge think of Pokemon as like an RPG first. I think of Pokemon as an RPG by circumstance.
Dude, that's so
like
true.
I think the mechanics of Pokemon and a lot of like the stuff that happens in the world just fit that genre at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that it still fits the genre in a lot of different ways, but I think that mechanically it would be better for the type of franchise that it is if it was closer to being an action RPG.
Yeah,
I
man,
think
that's really
that
cool.
it's too big to be limited to this small genre.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm thinking right now that I got 2 points here. Off stream, off podcast, we were talking about how like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were created because of a specific moment, and that's making me realize that like a lot of people, young kids, right? My niece very specifically. And also a lot of I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people, their first Pokemon game was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, right? Their first game was Pokemon Go, right? And then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were like kind of like a strategy to get them on board with the RPGs. But like you're saying, like some people find Pokemon through the TCG, right? My cousin, he's like 10 or whatever, right? And he was showing me his Terramax Charizard card, and I was like, this is sick, dude. I'm so like hyped for him. But like that's his first interaction with the Pokemon, with a Pokemon period, with Charizard, right? That's a really good point. I think but this also makes me something I always think about is like Pokemon is so big, and this isn't an excuse, but Pokemon is so big. I think they're very conservative with what kind of moves they want to make, and they don't want to disrupt this like second peak that they've had. Right. I feel like they're bigger than they've ever been, and they weren't in that position 10 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
So it's
I completely agree with that. Yeah. And that's why I wanted Legends to exist.
Yeah.
Because
and it does.
I think that Legends existing could have served as like this testing ground for like maybe we push the boundaries in the mainline games and we integrate the things that people loved in that game into the mainline game rather than making it this like sectioned off like alt universe kind of situation. Because I feel like a lot of people were disappointed by like Scarlet and Violet when we got it, and it wasn't that, where it wasn't the whole thing of like, and this happens.
I think I was, I think I honestly was.
After Pokemon Heart Gold came out, and they brought following Pokemon back, it's like, oh man, it's back for forever. And then they stop. They do that a lot. They're like, hey, look at this cool little thing.
I think they do that for things that they shouldn't do that for. I don't mind them doing that because what it does is it makes those like old playthroughs, like we're talking about, valuable, right? When I go back to Heart Gold, Soul Silver now, like there's value in that.
Right.
However, maybe that doesn't even matter to them. I mean, I would think it would matter to them, but maybe it doesn't matter to them because they're not making money off of it. They should just port Heart Gold, Soul Silver so I can give them money for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, like, again, for people like us that like hold on to these older consoles or even go out of our way to reacquire the games that we don't have anymore, that's fine. And that it's like this novel thing where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back to Heart Gold. It's a pain in the ass to play Heart Gold.
It is, dude. Well, no, Heart Gold. I don't mind Heart Gold and Soul Silver so much. It's becoming a pain in the butt to play Gen 3 games. Because my DSs just don't work the same, and like it's hard to charge and whatever. But yeah, I totally agree, and I think there's a lot of like we have a lot of privilege when it just being 30. I'm 30.
Yeah,
I don't know how old you are, but yeah. Same. Like there's a lot of privilege in just being like I'm the old head. Back in my day, I had all these. Like I've been buying these games ever since, right? So I have access to them, and a lot of people my age will be, who are making content are like, why do you need to port them? And I'm like, one, it would be more convenient to play on my Switch. It'd be nice and crispy. And then the added benefit is that they can add, if Game Freak is porting these older games, they can inject all of these lost event Pokemon and event experiences. I think that's a whole different conversation. There's so many possibilities with that. They did that with the Gen 1 and Gen 2 games when they ported those to the 3DS. But also younger players can experience these older games, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're not doing it. They kind of do the Disney, they kind of do the Apple thing where it's like you hold your card. The vault thing. They kind of do that. But I wonder if they're also holding their cards close and not porting these games because they want to save the Johto experience for an event, like an inevitable remake, right? So the first Johto experience isn't this older thing, but it's this like new flashy, faithful remake, right?
Right.
Maybe we can pivot to that if you want. Pokemon Works was just announced about a month ago. And the implication is there. So the Pokemon Works, it's like this like new secret project, this new team comprised of Game Freak employees, ILCA employees, I think some other additional people. And the big exciting implication there is that this team is going to work on some sort of Pokemon game, probably some sort of subset of Pokemon game. I would imagine it's either going to be the Faithful remake if ILCA's involved, or maybe this new thing, right? It could, my dream is, and there's no evidence for this, but my dream is more pixel games, right? In that old classic Game Freak style. But anyways, have you heard about Pokemon Works?
Yeah. Do
you have any thoughts?
I made a short about it.
Okay.
I mean,
we don't know that much.
Yeah. Similarly to what I was talking about before, my dream for them is that it's like an all hands on deck kind of thing. It's like they need more support to make better games.
Yeah, period.
Like the thing about it is like a lot of the controversy is like Game Freak is not great at making games. They're not great developers on a technical level. They never really have been.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like it's hard to reconcile the idea that it's like we need more franchises when the base one isn't even as good as it should be.
Yeah.
So like my hope is that it's like that studio is being used to make sure that the mainline games are as good as they possibly can be. But it would be cool for them to like, I don't know, have like a section of that's like, okay, let's do these like remakes that are like demakes kinda,
I think there's a lot of value in that, and a lot of fan games. I don't play a lot of fan games. I don't know why. I feel like I have nothing against them, but I don't play a lot of fan games, probably because, let me psychoanalyze myself, maybe because I feel like I want to just focus on the canon of Pokemon, right? Like if I'm maybe playing an experience, I want to like know that this is actually what Game Freak is offering and not just, I don't want to be like mixing memories or whatever, but
I'm similar. I don't play a lot of fan games because I don't tend to agree with a lot of older Pokemon fans where they're like, because fan games like the ones that I see get really prevalent just tend to be, hey, what if Pokemon was made for a 30-year-old and it was edgy and Pokemon die, you know? And I'm like,
dude. So tell me a little bit. So I was watching back your Palworld video. That was like that was a monster of a video.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to think. I'm curious to hear from you. Like what do you think about? If you could tell the audience like what you think Pokemon could maybe take or borrow. Maybe borrow is not the right word. From Palworld. Like, what do you think Palworld does right? Or maybe what other games do right in this similar vein that could be implemented into a Pokemon game?
I think a lot of the gameplay side of it, like nothing in terms of like the world or theming or anything like that. But the gameplay, they do a lot of like wish fulfillment stuff. Like being able to like fly on multiple Pokemon. I mean, pals. Same thing with like, there's just a lot of different mounts, and you can use your pals to like light a campfire and like
which is, I mean, that is cool.
Plants. Like like that's a Pokemon thing. You would see that in the anime of them being, the Squirtle Squad exists, right? Dude. Like you can literally just have a Squirtle Squad that lives in your base in Palworld.
And that's kind of always been a thing in the. I'm thinking of Pokemon Sword and Shield, where you have like the Pokemon jobs. Right, like, but imagine if
we don't get to see or play that. It would be sick to be able to like have stuff like that in the gameplay. I think Palworld does a really good job at that. Also, I think that Palworld does a good job at like, for a shorter amount of time than is necessary, but it does a decent job at like incentivizing you to play with people.
That's cool.
I think with Pokemon, there's a lot of incentive to play a lot against people, because that's the thing that they invest their time in is like VGC and making sure that the depth there.
Pokemon is like catching, or it's like maybe like discovering, catching, trading, battling. That's it, right? That's like the core of Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that there's more that they could do to integrate the experience with playing alongside other people.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that goes back to the Legends thing, where it's like, for me, Pokemon is like such a social thing.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of the fan base that's like, I feel usually is in that like replay mindset. It's like this insular thing to them. That's why like a lot of times they get mad about the version thing, because like to them, versions means I have to buy both games so I can get all the Pokemon, because I'm not playing. Like, talk to a human? What?
Yeah.
You want me to talk to a person? But for me, I get excited about that because I played Scarlet and Violet, the entire thing, in Union Circles.
Yeah.
The entire thing.
That's cool.
So it would have been sick if like they did stuff, I think like Palworld does, where it's like, man, I can't find this Pokemon, but my friend found 2 of them, and we could trade and go through that whole thing and put in a code and do that. But why can't I not just walk up to you and be like, yo, I need that Pokemon?
Yeah.
Okay, bet. Here's the Pokemon, and they hand it to me. Palworld does a lot of cool stuff like that too.
I still haven't played Palworld, so I'm still kind of in the dark. But yeah. I think so let's take it back to Pokemon Legends Arceus. So yeah, maybe you can just like quickly say things you like about Pokemon Legends Arceus, and then what you don't like, and then we can talk about Legends ZA.
I like the gameplay. I like the ability to like catch Pokemon in different ways, where it's like the stealth and all that stuff. I like the way that they iterate on the Pokédex.
Yeah. Sure.
That's essentially it.
Really? You don't like the crafting?
No. I mean, I like the idea of it, but I don't like the execution.
Okay.
I think that crafting in Pokemon makes sense, but a lot of the times when they do it, and this is true in Arceus and even more so in Scarlet and Violet, it ends up being a thing that they use to wall off something that was pretty accessible in prior games.
Okay.
Like I run up against this all the time in Scarlet and Violet specifically, where it's like, oh man, I'm making a new Pokemon team, really need Protect.
Sure.
Oh man, I don't have any more of that. I guess I gotta go fight a bunch of Lechonks like that.
And it's not like fun.
Yeah. Exactly. So like if they found better ways to either like make what you craft worthwhile, or make the things that you
have to do
craft,
actually
like,
fun.
Yes, exactly. Like if the best way to get a Pokeball or whatever is to craft, it should be that, because either it's so easy that I just do it passively, or it's fun.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to be like, okay, well,
that's a real thing.
Yeah. So that's the thing for me, where it's like I think there's a lot of like seeds of things that I would love in Arceus, but it's hard to be like, I love this about Arceus, because I don't think Arceus sticks the landing on a lot of the stuff that it does.
So for me, what I love about Legends Arceus, maybe this is just what I remember, but it's I mean, and this is very like baby. This is a very like baby logic, but it's the sounds, right? It's like it's like the memory of the first time going out into the wild. It's the threat of being destroyed by an alpha. It's the being at the top of Mount Coronet and sending out your Pokemon, all 6 of them, and like watching them interact, right? And then like squatting next to them and being like, and like in your little kimono or whatever it is, and like like that's what I think of. And I know some of that is maybe the last point, like the outfits. That's very specific to like the Hisui region, which is like Hokkaido based, but yeah, I think for me, it's like it's. I feel like I feel like I'm actually the main character in the Pokemon universe. I'm not Ethan in Johto, right? Does that make sense? So
yeah, anyways, I feel that.
Yeah.
I think that makes complete sense, and I will say I do also think that part of it is cool too. Like you said, the being able to like stand next to your whole team, and that sort of situation.
Little, but we didn't. I don't think Scarlet and Violet had any of the same vibes.
Yeah,
right? It did not. It was not the same experience at all. I think some other things that I like about Legends Arceus are, I like the ride Pokemon a lot too. I like how you use multiple. I
hate them.
You don't like that?
I hate them because I mean they're like fine. They're like fine, but I think that there's too many of them.
I think
where, like they don't synergize well.
Yeah,
I've died many a time where like I'm like trying to go to one Pokemon and then like
you click the wrong button.
It's like I hate that.
Yeah,
like for me, I liked how they like took that same idea and then just did it for one Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because it's so annoying to like, due to no fault of my own, a lot of the time just die because the game insisted that I'm Sneasler now. And like,
you're like, I just meant to hit right, not left.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the little D-pad.
It's like,
no, that definitely is frustrating. And I think a criticism of Legends Arceus is that it definitely does feel small after you've played it a couple times. Like I still think, like, I'm playing the Ruby right now, and that world still feels huge.
Yeah.
And I think Legends Arceus, the what we see in Hisui, it does feel a little. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's the deck size. Maybe the deck size needs to be a little bit bigger to include more than just the Sinnoh decks. That could be it.
I think the deck size definitely needs to be bigger for the kind of game that it is.
Yeah.
Because that's the content in the game ultimately. It's
totally
catching the Pokemon.
Yeah.
And really that's all there is to do once you clear the story is like, oh, well, I guess I'll get a shiny dex. You know, like that's like, I don't know what else you do.
Yeah, if you're not shiny hunting, yeah. So, all right, that sounds good. So what are you most anticipating with Pokemon Legends ZA? Like, when we've seen the one trailer, it's not even gameplay. Like, what was your lasting impression? Like, where are you right now? What are you thinking? Like, all right, this is definitely going to be it. Or
I think the thing that gives me hope about Legends ZA is that a lot more of the modern experience seems to be depicted there. And by modern experience, I mean like just Pokemon having trainers and that not being this like isolating thing of like, I'm a trainer and nobody else is, so that means I'm not going to have any trainer battles. That gives them a easy excuse to not let you play with your friends and like all that stuff. I think a lot of like my problems with the original game is owed to like the trainer experience being treated as like this novelty that only you experience.
Sure.
Which like thematically is neat. But like in execution, as far as gameplay is concerned, I think that it limits the game a lot.
Yeah, I'm starting to think like maybe some of these things that I like about Legends Arceus were kind of like great because it was like the first of its kind, or the first time I experienced it. Where maybe the experience might be a little bit stale. When we actually get into this like new version of the Legends series. I think I would love to be able to battle my friends. And I feel like with the like they're very deliberately told us that like megas are coming back. I wonder how megas are going to come back. Are they going to be like the ride Pokemon? Are they going to function? I think there's a potential that they function like Pokemon Go, where you can mega your Pokemon outside of battle and then they like stay mega'd for 6 hours or whatever it might be. They could function like that in this game. Megas could I think the battle, the battle system with the strong and the agile styles, I think megas fit really nicely into that, where it's like you have strong, agile, mega, right? That kind of makes sense. I thought Gogoat was such a big it was like the first ride Pokemon in Gen 6. If they give it a mega, now it's like I don't know. I'm like imagining that's the ride Pokemon. That's the steed Pokemon.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, I think that megas fit pretty well into like the alpha.
Yeah,
situation.
You're right. Absolutely.
Whereas like not just any Pokemon could be a mega evolution. It's you gotta find the mega one because they're the ones that have the stones or whatever.
And the alphas were like enraged, I think, by Arceus. So maybe like the megas in the world of this new Lumiose city are like enraged by Zygarde, maybe, right? And then that's where you get the fan-made term, like the what is it? The Mega Z forms, right? That are all just enraged by Zygarde's wrath or something.
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Is there I don't know. Yeah. So is there anything else specifically that? Listen, on this channel we like speculate to the far reaches. So if you don't want to, I don't know if you have nothing else to speculate on. because your stuff's always like really grounded in what we've already seen, and we haven't seen anything. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that it's hard for me to like go off the wall with this specifically because I am in this like prove to me that I should love this game.
No, that's a good place to be.
So I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think that part would be a cool way to do it though. Like because alphas is another thing that was like, the idea of this is so cool, but the execution I didn't like.
Really?
Because like, so when I originally found my first alpha Pokemon, I found the Alpha Baniri. And I was like, what is going on here? Why is the alpha so big?
Why is it Baniri?
And that is sick. Like that is so cool. I don't know that many people that also found that Baniri. But there's a lot of Pokemon that are alpha Pokemon that are like static encounters and they refresh.
Yeah.
And I think that takes away from that experience of like,
dude, man, you're right.
I found that Alpha Geodude and he's 30 feet tall, and that's crazy.
Dude, yeah. I remember finding an Alpha Cherrim, and I'm like, dude, this baby is angry. This little cherub, it's so angry.
But them being static encounters, I think, kind of ruins it.
Yeah, like that first Rapidash you see, right? Okay, and I'm starting to see your perspective where it's like, you know, after you play through it a couple times, you're like, this isn't as scary. Like the first time you play it, it's thrilling because you're like, this world is massive. I can't fast travel. I'm literally could be attacked by a bunch of Starly. I could be attacked by a Rapidash. But once you realize how the game functions, you're like, I know how to avoid this Rapidash.
You start to see
pretty easily. Yeah. All right, so you're playing through yellow version right now on your Twitch channel. What? So I'm pretty sure you're going to be playing through all of these older games, right?
Yeah.
In lead up of some of probably Generation 10. Just trying to So what stands out for you for while playing yellow version right now? Because I haven't played it in a while.
So. Similar to the Legends games, I get a lot of crap from Pokemon fans on my thoughts on Gen 1.
Let's do it.
And I promise, I love Pokemon. I promise. Yeah. But there's some generations that is just like, this didn't age well. And Gen 1 and Gen 2, those are going to be rough. I'm gonna be happy once I get to Gen 3.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. TBD on Platinum because like Gen 4 was like before.
Slow.
Yeah.
They're slog to get through.
So I'm told all the time that Platinum is like one of the best Pokemon games ever. I never spent a lot of time in Platinum because I remember as a kid I didn't really like Diamond.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why am I going to play this again?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that people are right about Platinum.
It is a better. I mean, on Platinum specifically, I think it's a better game. No spoilers, but. You are able to get a lot more of the Sinnoh Pokemon, a lot more of the cross-gen evolutions. There's a wider pool of Pokemon available to you early on. I think the game performs a little bit better, like it's quicker. And I think, so there's a lot of like quality of life, things like that, which makes it more interesting. Like, your teams aren't not going to be just Infernape and Roserade and Buizel and Garchomp. It's not going to be that. Like you might have a Gallade or something, right?
So for yellow, a lot of it when I'm playing, it's like I had this like in the back of my mind where it's like I know this game didn't age well.
Yeah.
And that's the thought that I had. But going in it, I think that the opposite of what I want to happen with Platinum is happening for me, where I'm like, oh, this game is worse than I remember.
Yeah.
And it's like tough. not even stuff that I think is like easy to like excuse them for, because again, Game Freak. Magazine company, first like massive franchise.
It's wait. What's that?
They started as a magazine company.
Are you kidding me?
Yes,
I never looked into this. That's crazy.
And they were like really inspired by Dragon Quest and
Were they gaming?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it was like game coverage. They used to do like guides and stuff like that. So it's like also small team. It was like 10 people that worked on this game. So yeah, that part, get it.
Okay.
Completely understand. I understand how they messed up the interaction between psychic and ghosts. Like that makes sense. But why is karate chop a normal type attack?
Bro, yeah, that's
Why do I have a level 20
Gust
something
is a normal
Pidgey?
type attack.
Yeah, I have a level 20 something Pidgeotto, and he still doesn't have a flying type move. That's not whirlwind.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That is
That's
literally
insane.
crazy. That is honestly so crazy. And a lot of people say that's like, so I've been watching, this is a creator, was it Smith Plays Pokemon, I think, has a ongoing series right now. This is just a Pokemon creator, where they're basically like creating a ROM hack to pay homage to the legacy of these older games. So they're making like the perfect version of Yellow, but it's not to include anything that shouldn't be there. And I'm bringing this up because basically when you think of Yellow version, you're like, oh, I'm remembering it based on what I know about the series now. But when you actually go back and play it, it's not the same experience at all, right? It's what you're saying. It can be pretty frustrating, right?
Low kick flinches.
Really?
Yes, low kick flinches. The paralysis is like a 50% chance that you can't move.
Yo.
Sleep, I don't think has a term limit. I haven't run up into like there's so much.
I don't know about any of this. I knew about some of these, but like Bug is super effective against poison, but that's insane, dude. Never mind all of the glitches. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's the part that's like crazy because again, like as like I'm not like. I make a lot of Pokemon stuff, and especially now that it's just me, I can like indulge and like before it was like I don't want to make too much Pokemon stuff because then we build a Pokemon audience, and Parker doesn't like Pokemon as much as I do. So like
I love Pokemon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now it's like I could just make whatever I want whenever I want. So a lot of Pokemon videos have been happening recently.
That's good.
But with this, it's like I did not know this stuff. I wasn't like as like tuned in as I feel as a lot of PokeTubers tend to be on like the Gen 1 differences because they're like playing Smogon and they're doing like Pokemon Gen 1 little cup challenges. Know, I don't get that granular. So like, and the last time I played through Gen 1 was right before Let's Go came out.
Yeah. That's probably when I played it too, in preparation.
Exactly. So now I'm like, man, like I knew just from like how familiar I was with the game as a kid and like how many times I played through it then.
Yeah.
The problems that I had with it, but they were the more like, macro issues of like, like the stuff that I was talking about with like the ghosts interaction and like all that stuff.
And I think a lot of that stuff can be quirky. Obviously the playthrough, can be tough. But I do also think a lot of people find charm in those inconsistencies. I think a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's the thing I think is weird. Because like, if you find that quirky, then find it quirky. But when we have Scarlet and Violet, and there's like that. Yeah, and there's visual bugs.
Sure.
Like I know that some people definitely could have ran into bugs that like ruined their experience gameplay wise. Like maybe they fell through like the geometry and lost a save or something. I never ran into anything like that.
I never did either.
The closest I've ever come to the gameplay being ruined by Scarlet and Violet's bugs is one time I was shiny hunting Tandem Mouse, and like some of the Tandem Mouse spawned inside the like mountains.
Yeah.
I've since learned that even that you can just do the like you could just throw your Pokeball at it and
into the wall
with the Pokemon through the wall. So like even that,
write
like
that down, guys.
even that gameplay wise is like, well, I thought that this was what could have ruined my experience gameplay wise, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It like the worst that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet gets bug wise is like it ruins my immersion. Oh
yeah. I mean, listen, for me, that is something that I care about. Like
I agree with you. I think that it's cool to be immersed in Pokemon, but I think that like for people to make like to act like Scarlet and Violet are the worst Pokemon games of all time, where that is the biggest sin. Yeah, when that is the biggest sin, but they haven't played Gen 1 where I'm battling freaking Pikachu or whatever, and it has me in turn 42 of this battle because I can't move. I've been paralyzed and haven't been able to do anything. Dude, like, or somebody hits me with rap,
dude.
or I get
The
stunned
rap
by
and the
being
fire
asleep.
spin. Oh, it's
Because like
awful.
when you wake up, you can't move. So they have a turn to be like, oh, you're not asleep anymore? Bet I'm putting you back to sleep. Or the fact that crit chance is increased by speed. So it's a rich get richer situation where it's like, oh, well, I'm faster than you.
Yeah.
So I'm just more likely to get like somebody in my chat thought that the game was bugged originally, like just from their like thought of their playthrough where it's like, oh yeah, it's bugged where if a Pokemon gets a crit, they will get another crit. And it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm like, I don't think that that's true. Let me
play
see,
test it.
like, now, with this in my head, let's wait until I get another crit. And no, like anecdotally, that feels true because that, like, how crits were determined. Yeah, if you're a faster Pokemon, it's more likely that you're going to continue to get crits.
Damn, dude.
So it's like there's so many things like that that makes Gen 1 grating.
Sure.
So where I'm like, it's just weird to pretend that like Scarlet and Violet are the worst games where like that's the worst thing that they do is visual.
I think a lot of the a lot of the there's also like, so when I like the last 10 years, right? I was in my 20s. The last 15 years, right? Whatever, right? Gen 1 was on such a pedestal. Like growing up in gaming media culture, Gen 1 was on such a pedestal, and I'm guessing maybe I'm realizing like the people who actually have a voice right now are like, no, the best games are Gen 4. The best games are Gen 5, right? That's starting to happen, right? Like
absolutely.
Like Lumi on the podcast, he loves Generation 6. And he's a little bit younger than me, so I don't see it like that. Like I played the heck out of Gen 6, but to me that's not the heyday, right? So that I feel like there's
I'm just generally pretty anti-nostalgia in terms of like letting it like obviously I love Pokemon as much as I do because of those formative years of like when I was 4 and I played my first Pokemon game. But as a gamer, that's not how I operate. Like I try to call it what it is, you know? Like I can love Pokemon Yellow for the like outside, like the meta game of it all, of like, man, I played through this game with my mom, and they had the whole thing where I traded our Butterfree for another Charmander because I couldn't read, so I didn't know how to get my Charmander out of the PC box, and my neighbor did. So she was like, I really like Butterfree, and like I can love it for those reasons. But as somebody that plays games and talks about them critically for my job, that's how I look at all of the games that I play. So it's like it's easy for me to look at like Scarlet and Violet for what it is and say like, okay, well, if we're judging them based on being Pokemon games, these are the best Pokemon games. They do a lot of stuff like objectively better than everything that came
Wait, did you just say they are the best Pokemon game?
Yeah.
Bro, are you kidding me?
Yes.
No shot.
I think that for like how like a lot of like what you value in Pokemon, like the more like story side of it and like the world that they crafted and all that stuff, that is more of a thing that's not objective. That's like something that like but I just mean like mechanically, Scarlet and Violet are the best Pokemon game.
Okay.
Full stop. There's like different like I think I never really thought about it, but Unova's probably my favorite my favorite.
Unova's great. Yeah. I'm
mostly just because I can relate to it. I grew up in this area, so it's like, oh, I know what that's based off
true.
Of,
yeah. I'm in New England, so like I just hate anything to do with Unova. Right.
That's fair. So like on that end, yeah, for sure. But I just mean mechanically, because like again, as a gamer, general Nintendo fan or whatever, right? Pokemon, there's never been like my perfect Pokemon game. I think Pokemon still has a lot to do to be like, game of the year, Breath of the Wild level.
No, totally. Do you think it could ever achieve? Do you think Pokemon could ever achieve game of the year?
And its current state, like if they continue to make games in the way that they do,
like what would that have to look like? Would it have to be like groundbreaking, or would it just have to be like
it would have to literally have its Breath of the Wild moment.
Yeah.
Where and I think it's possible. I think it could happen. But they need to rip some band-aids off.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know how far back you went, as far as like watching my videos, but my first video that I ever made was about Pokemon Z, and it should be on the Wii U, and we should get overworld encounters.
Bro, I gotta watch
and
that.
There were people on Twitter and in my comment section that's like, overworld encounters would ruin the game. How can you shiny hunt? You know,
bro, that's
all
insane.
This stuff. And that's why I get it. That's why I get why game for, like you were saying earlier, like Pokemon is too big, where it's like they can't, some changes it's scary to make, because you have so much of your fan base that's like indoctrinated to think that like, like Pokemon is good because exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Pokemon, like the formula that it is should not be touched, because if it is, that will make it bad now.
No, totally. I think the people who are attracted to Pokemon games they like patterns. They find comfort in like sameness, right? I feel like I'm one step away from like a cozy gamer, right? Like, and Pokemon is almost that. I feel like at least the games that I like, where you're just like chilling around in Johto or wherever. Dude, that's insane to think that like Pokemon could. And I think there is a lot of hope for like the future of Pokemon. I think the fact that Legends ZA exists blows my mind. I don't think anyone predicted it. Maybe you predicted it 10 years ago.
No,
you thought it was going to be on the Wii U, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of what I said, I think that a lot of the stuff that I say about Pokemon ends up happening.
Yeah.
But it's
slow. It's slow to happen.
Yeah,
it's really
exactly. Slow. Because like, I don't know, I've just been saying because to me the light bulb moment was around Pokemon Go. Like once Pokemon Go happened, it was like, oh, okay, they are willing to change this. Like since Pokemon Go, we got Sun and Moon, which that kind of introduced the idea of open world.
Yeah.
With like the I forgot which island it is, but it's like towards the end of the game. It's like the last part.
The last, where it's like, no, I don't think I actually do know what you're saying. The last, where would that be in Sun and Moon? The last,
it's like the end game. It's like, I think right before the Pokemon League. I'm sure
it's like a dusty path. Yeah.
So like that was like proto like wild area.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
And then they launched with the wild area, and I remember being on the Wolf Den podcast. I don't know if it was still Wolf Den Live at this time.
Yeah.
Where they announced the wild area, and I'm like, you guys are going to be mad. You're not going to like the wild area.
Dude, we were pissed.
Because you guys, like people, like generally, people are going to like see this and think, okay, yeah, Pokemon, it's going open world. We're going to have like overworld encounters.
Yeah. And it's not the same. Yeah, it wasn't what it was in Scarlet and Violet. You're right.
We can control the camera and all this. And I'm like, no, them calling it wild area means that this is a sectioned off part of the map where only here you'll be able to control your camera. You'll be able to see overworld encounter Pokemon and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like when you get like a mayonnaise flavored sandwich spread. You're like, okay, it's not mayonnaise. It's something very specifically different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like in seeing that was another evolution. They do nothing overnight.
No.
Nothing. Which is I think pretty similar. And depending on what Gen 10 ends up being, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some like Breath of the Wild-ish changes to Pokemon, because Breath of the Wild, I mean, Zelda took 30 years to get to Breath of the Wild.
That's true. No, that's very true.
Like, I think that it's reasonable to look at something like Sword and Shield as their attempted like Ocarina of Time moment.
Yeah.
Where they're like, okay, we're on consoles, we're doing HD, we're introducing the idea of open world.
I think Legends could have been that. I think so many people wanted Legends to Legends. I'm never gonna let go of Pokemon, but I definitely was like super disillusioned around that time, especially after Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And that game, Legends Arceus, brought me back. It got me so much more invested in everything that I care about Pokemon. But it actually made me feel like that anime experience that you're talking about, right? Yeah. When you think about what Pokemon means to you, you're thinking about you as a kid watching Charizard beat up Magmar or whatever, right?
Yeah, this
right?
seismic toss.
Yeah, dude, going around the Earth. That's what Legends Arceus made me feel like.
Right.
And I do think, I don't know. I think that's why I'm so excited for ZA. I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what it could be, but I think it could be that step. And one of the only things that they said in the promotion of this and like in the launch trailer, they Game Freak said that Legends ZA was going to be ambitious. They used that word very specifically. I don't know, in gaming, I mean, in the wider space of gaming, do you think companies throw out that word willy-nilly? Or do you think that's significant?
I think I would have to look at the marketing for past Pokemon games because I feel like they might have said similar things in the past.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is one of our most ambitious titles yet.
Which, I mean, if they said that, they wouldn't be wrong. I mean, it's definitely a departure. But yeah, no, so I made a video leading into Legends Arceus, where like that was the whole thing, because like people were looking at the marketing for Legends Arceus, where they were like, oh look, they did the Breath of the Wild camera thing, where like they're standing and they're looking at a vista, and the camera like zooms flies past them and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, they did that in Sword and Shield, but I made a video where it's like, it's not going to be, I think this was like literally the title. It was like, Pokemon Legends Arceus is not going to be Breath of the Wild, or it's not Breath of the Wild, it's Skyward Sword. And I think that's where we're at. I think we're at Skyward Sword, where like retroactively you look at Skyward Sword and you're like, man, okay, a lot of the stuff that happens or that they did in Breath of the Wild was ideated here.
Wow,
like, we got Paraglider in Skyward Sword. Like that's where that started. And there's a lot of other examples of that too. It's just Breath of the Wild ideas trapped in the like traditional 3D Zelda engine sort of situation. And I think that's where we're at right now, where they're like trying to think of ways to evolve Pokemon past where it's at and where it's been, but in a safe space of like, it's still the Pokemon, but it's a little different.
Well, I mean, I think we've kind of taken a chill pill on the Gen 10 hype train. I think we were really excited for what that implication could be about a potentially Generation 10 of Pokemon launching either before or during the 30th year anniversary of the series. You actually said something in one of your more recent videos.
And in that video that made
you actually mentioned.
Everybody check that video out.
Yeah, it will be linked in the description. But I think you did say something about like, and I never considered this, that the international 30th year anniversary would actually be 2028, which is a lot later than than I've ever considered. They have always celebrated on the
Japanese one.
Yeah, exactly. The Japanese launch date. So I think we're still assuming it's going to be in 2026, maybe 2025.
Yeah, that's my assumption. That's what I'm operating on, playing through these games. That's why I'm like trying to get through Yellow as fast, because I want to finish all of these games plus relevant sequel games.
Yeah, just so you can confidently be like, this is the best game.
Yeah,
it's definitely not. It's definitely not Pearl version.
Yeah, like this is what's bad about this one. This is what's good about this one. This is why you care about this still. Like that sort of stuff. Because I definitely think like even in Yellow, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I get why I love that game as a kid. It's not just because kids are dumb.
Yeah,
that's part of it. But
kids are dumb.
I mean, by design, you got to be dumb to get smart eventually.
I still feel like I'm dumb sometimes. I think
same.
So do you think? I think what you're saying like kind of excites me. Talking about how like Generation 9 feels like the kind of like the setup game.
Arceus specifically.
Oh, you're saying Arceus feels like
Scarlet and Violet, kinda,
yeah.
But they were made at the same time, and this is another thing of like this. I want all hands on deck, because I feel like if they made them in tandem and like shared notes, Scarlet and Violet would be a lot better than it is, because they would be able to learn from what Arceus did well.
Totally.
But yeah, like the way they're thinking now about the games that they made in that time, I think are going to inform how they evolve Gen 10.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say like a combination of both of them, of Arceus and Scarlet and Violet.
Do you think it makes sense that we're predicting that Gen 10 is going to be as big as it is? Because I also feel like it could just be another regular departure. Or
No,
sorry, it could be just another regular entry in the series.
I
think it's significant.
Yeah, I think that like Game Freak, like since Pokemon Go, it's very clear to me that they're taking fan feedback seriously.
Okay.
And I think the fact that like not only Game Freak but Nintendo was like, we're not letting this happen again.
Yeah.
Like, we're fixing it.
Yeah.
And they've made like tangible steps that I think you can follow to the advancements that they made. Like right before Scarlet and Violet came out, they doubled their staff.
Yeah.
Then they made their first open world game. And even if you look at Scarlet and Violet, even though they didn't stick the landing as well as we would have hoped, they did a lot of stuff that people told them they should do. They worked with Monolith Soft to make this game. Like there's Monolith Soft devs on like in the credits. Jeez. So it's just a matter of them like implementing this with the hindsight of like what they learned from before. Yeah. Because I think that's when they do their best work. Like Gen 3 was a product of the fact that they learned from Gen 1 and Gen 2.
Yeah.
And a similar situation with every game after that. But I think that like it compounds. I think that Pokemon games, and we'll be able to verify this when I'm done my playthroughs, I think they get better exponentially. I think that the last game informs the next one.
Yeah.
In terms of like the mechanics and all that stuff. Obviously, the intangibles, the like the subjectivity of it all. Of like, well, I really love this region, and I was a kid
I like
when
Megas. I like Gigantamax.
Yeah, exactly. That stuff that can be debated all day long.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the gameplay, how the games are developed, how they think about the mechanics of battle and like quality of life and all that stuff, they improve exponentially. Jeez. And I think that we'll see that even more with the next game, especially if Pokemon Works is what I want it to be.
Yeah.
And they're working on this game. Well, not just them, but alongside Game Freak. Like my dream, best case scenario, like the like if tomorrow somehow Nintendo was like, you're the president now, and Game Freak was like, all right, we want your ideas on the next Pokemon game. I want Game Freak to be the ideas guy.
Yeah,
I don't want them to code a single thing. I don't want them to put any ones or zeros on this game.
I don't think people give Game Freak enough credit for that. Game Freak is actually genius when it comes to
they are incredible.
Their world building, their the specific designs of the Pokemon themselves. Like they've got it down to a T. I think they're so ingenious. I think Game Freak needs more credit. But they also need help.
Absolutely.
They also need help developing a game.
So then that's where we get to the next part of this idea. Yeah. The Bandai Namco studios, the Studio S and Studio that I want them to be the lead developers of Pokemon.
Okay.
In the same way that they develop Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and
Pokemon
I want
Snap.
them to Pokemon Snap, Pokemon. I want them to be in charge of the nuts and bolts, the coding and all that good old dear stuff
of
Pokemon game. I need it.
I wonder if that hasn't happened because also Game Freak is like really protective of their IP, right?
Yeah, they are, and that's the part I hate. Like I mean, I think
but they don't want to give it up. They don't want to give up those secrets, right? And there's already leakers like running amok.
Right.
Like actual leakers, people who actually have information. There's like tons of that in the community.
I agree with you entirely. And that's a hard problem to solve, but in an ideal world, that this is what I want them to do. I want them to give their video game developing to developers that have shown that they can make high quality AAA experiences that are fitting of an IP as massive as Pokemon.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, Pokemon makes, everyone always says that, right? Everyone always says that Pokemon is like the largest grossing media franchise in the world. I say it. I love it.
Yeah,
but I love it though because it's like it's a huge win, right?
I say it a lot.
I'm I'm an Ariana Grande like stan, right? So I'm like when she has a #1, I'm like she's winning. I gotta hype it up on Twitter, right?
So I have a love-hate relationship with it because I've said it multiple times. I'm sure I could make a montage of the amount of times I'm like, it's the biggest media franchise in the world. But I also hate it because it's this double-edged sword of like
then make your games better.
Yes, exactly. But that's the problem because it's like I also understand why they don't. because the games are not the reason for that. Like spiritually, they're the reason for that, obviously, because the
games spearheaded because, again, going back to Game Freak, going back to their world building, but it's the cards, it's the merch, it's the plushies, it's all of that. It's Pokemon Go.
And that's the frustrating part for me, because it's like people are like, well, where's all this money going?
Yeah, like, I'm it's going to merch.
It's going to $400 field. Have you seen that Lucario, bro? Like, what are you talking about? They bought
the 2016 Halloween costume with Lucario. It's epic. Yeah. Right?
Them acquiring like card printing studio, like come on, bro. Like, they reinvest in their IP, but it's relative.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, okay, so the video games make us 20% of our income.
Yeah.
So we're going to invest 20% of our income in the games. That's what they.
Yeah, because so here's a question. So obviously they still make a crap ton of money, right, on the video games. When we look at gaming as a whole, right? Like, what is the cap? How much money could they make? Could they actually make? Could there be a scenario where in 2020, maybe Gen 10, we see that like the video games are actually 50% of their income? Is that even possible? Right?
I think it is. Yeah. I genuinely believe that if they did what I'm talking about, and
if we make AJ the president,
yes, exactly,
president of Game Freak.
And obviously, I try to like reel this in a little bit in terms of like how people react to stuff like that, because like I don't run a multi-billion-dollar company, so I'm not going to sit here and be mad at them for not doing what I want them to do. That's why I'm like pie in the sky. If I were behind this, they GTA it, and it too could sell 150 million units in a generation.
But do you think that's possible? Because I think also GTA appeals to a different type of person, right? GTA has that like cool factor that like young kids want. Adults will play it.
That's why. I think that's why, is because of the game that it is in execution. Okay. Like not the theming. I think the theming of Pokemon is strong enough. Okay, that's why it's the biggest media franchise in the world, is because of the theming.
Yeah.
But the execution of the games doesn't make everybody want to engage with it.
That's it. Legends Arceus was the only game, just to add to your point, Legends Arceus was the only Pokemon game in the last 10 years where I was like actively messaging my friends and being like, this is the game you
gotta play this.
You gotta play this. It's not like I'm not gonna be out here pushing, Pokemon Ultra Sun on my buddies.
Right.
They don't care. But Legends Arceus was I feel like it fit like it was just like more widely appealing.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what it is with Grand Theft Auto, where it's like it's very widely appealing. Yeah. And same thing like
I think here's the thing. I think Palworld kind of tapped into that a little bit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
even though there was a lot of counterculture to that, right? I still think that's kind of what it was. It was like there was a lot of edgy gamers who were like, yo, this is sick.
So I'll say I think most people that play Palworld are not necessarily on that end, just the people on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think most people that were like, oh yeah, this is a thing and it's kind of like Pokemon, I'll play that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why they also had the fall off that they had, is because it's like, oh, okay, so this isn't Pokemon. All right, well.
Can you reiterate your point in your Palworld video of why even though Palworld sold more than like Legends Arceus, can you tell the audience why that actually isn't so significant, because of the additional factors that no one reports on? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Because Palworld's $30.
Yeah.
Or you can get it as part of Game Pass, which is $18 a month. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Pokemon is double the price. And also people like to like drum home this, like they think it's a gotcha. Yeah. That they're like, there's two versions of Pokemon. Of course they sell more. Yeah, and it's like, bro, even if this world that people fabricate in their mind exists, that every Pokemon fan that buys Pokemon buys both versions of the game, that's each person spending $120 on one game.
Yeah.
We're comparing that to people that might have not even spent the retail $30 price, on top of the fact that on Steam it launched on sale. So yeah,
dude, you said that and I was like, wow, okay, I don't feel bad anymore, because when Palworld was blowing up and I was like seeing the stats, I was like, damn, like this is taking over. However, it's been crickets online for the last 2 months. But yeah, anyways, I just thought that was really impactful when I heard that.
It's very.
So do you think, going back to yellow version, do you think Kanto holds up as a good Pokemon experience?
Yes,
Kanto
absolutely.
Specifically.
Kanto is phenomenal. Okay. I get why Game Freak keeps coming back to it.
Okay.
Kanto's great.
What do you like about it?
I like the world of it all, like the Team Rocket side, and like how Team Rocket, like everybody knows who Team Rocket is. And I'm like, man, Rocket, they robbed my Pokemon. They killed this guy's Pokemon. Freaking
Team Rocket kind of has that same GTA appeal, right? It's like very easy to understand. They're just thieves.
Yeah, exactly. That side of it I like a lot. The designs are great. It's been a while since like it was hard to be like this is my team. Yeah. And I'm the type of person, especially like with modern games where it's like more reasonable to be able to do this, that has like a rotation of Pokemon, like Ash type beat of like, I have my 6, but I'm going to call up Professor Oak and be like, yo, I need my Tauros, bro.
Yeah. Let's do
that's usually how I play Pokemon. But with Gen 1, it's like, and generations up until I want to say like 6, honestly. That's maybe 5. It's much more of an investment to have that rotation of Pokemon, especially if you're like me and you don't like grinding.
Yeah.
So I've been playing through this game and I'm like, this is my 6. I want these 6, and I'm like, I want Lapras though. Yeah. Oh, but I want Dragon.
That is the worst. Where like, you have
like,
7 badges and you want to like still change up your team. You're like, I gotta solidify. I'm gonna be under leveled for the Elite Four.
Yes, that's another part that's really cool about Kanto. I like the fact that like I tweeted about this in one of my the announcements for one of my streams where I'm like, this is the first time I ever played this game and I didn't sequence break by accident. Like the fact that that's even possible, is pretty sick.
That is wild.
So like I also like that, and I like they do it now, but I think that like by design. And I still don't know if they bugged levels in Gen 1 or what, but like I'm battling a level because there's so I just beat Koga, and I battled his Venomoth that was level 50, and my strongest Pokemon was like level 28.
Yeah,
and it wasn't hard. I pretty much like ran through that gym, and I'm like, I don't know if level 50 means what it means now.
I think
like,
it's
I don't know if.
I think it's
is it?
I think it's the same, but I think back in the day, and this is what we were talking about, like I think it's easier to like utilize the gimmicks or the cheats,
true.
or it's not about like raw.
But so the thing is, the AI is dumb.
Yeah,
that's
another
thing.
thing. Yeah,
because like I think with Koga specifically, I was like, I think I had like Gloom out or something, and he kept poison powdering me. So I'm like, okay, bet. I'm just going to spam cut, and you're going to keep spamming poison powder, and GG's.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so I'll look at the levels or whatever, and I'm like, the level scaling in this game sucks, and then I'll get through it anyway. Not even really trying to cheese it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I'm not sure if that matters.
I just think that's old Pokemon. I think that's like, I think it wasn't until like Gen 3 where things are like, okay, this is tough. Like I can't, I have to actually like have the proper levels. I need to have the proper movesets. So there actually, in Gen 1, there definitely were some mechanical splits, like the special, like there was just the special stat. And I think that plays into a lot. There was something called DVs rather than IVs. I don't actually exactly know how that makes it. I don't exactly know how that works into how it works. But yeah, I think the movesets just tend to suck. And the AI sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But I do like the sequence break potential because I played through this game when I was 4, and I beat Sabrina before I beat Koga.
Yeah, that's super fun.
Like, so it was like that.
Did you enjoy that in Scarlet and Violet?
Yeah. So
because I don't think it was implemented correctly.
I liked it, but I think that like. They've never done it right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a good way to do it right.
I think I know a way.
Okay, how do you think?
I think it should just. I think it's like you can go in any direction, but it'll scale. Like we've seen in a lot of. I don't know if it's. Yeah, I'm pretty sure in video game canon, gym leaders will have a range of levels.
Yeah, like they go in the back of the gym and they're like, they do what Brock did.
This guy's got
Origins, where he's like, okay, I got this Geo dude and this Onyx.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think that's how they should do it. Where it literally just scales up. If you have 5 badges, everything's level 30. If you have 6 badges, everything's level 35 or whatever.
That's my thinking too. But I think the problem with that and what they want to try to, what it feels like they want to achieve with the like sequence break of it all is what like. It comes back to it again, Breath of the Wild, what they achieve, where it's like you could jump off the porch and fight Ganon, and if you're good at the game, you can win. But that doesn't exist in Pokemon. Yeah. So I think that it's hard for them to achieve that without which
I don't think it works with the experience system.
Yeah,
I think that maybe that's what it is, because with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like I don't think I guess there is technically an experience system, right? That advances your weapons, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to
like
your
better
weapons.
Gear and stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's the main issue with why them imitating that from Breath of the Wild doesn't work.
I think it's also like a gameplay thing where it's like you could just be better. You could just outspace Ganon. Sure. You could just have better reflexes, but that's not a thing.
Yeah.
In Pokemon currently.
Yeah. You'll just get one shot at it, right? Your Fuecoco is gonna get. It's just gonna get destroyed.
My Fuecoco can't dodge, like
Dude, every time I battle my buddies in real life, my homeschool friends or my hometown friends, we're always like, use your tail to jump, right? Like we just say all these like obscure things that Ash says, right? Like
be so sick. Like sweaty Pokemon, like VGC people are like, oh, the anime is like so unrealistic.
I'm like, it'd be so much fun.
It's crazy. Yeah, it would be so sick if I could be like, oh, there's a fire, like a fire alarm.
It's
with the sprinklers here.
It's so humid today. Torkoal, use flamethrower on the ground and make it steamy so you can dodge things. Like
that would be so sick. I would love
cool.
that.
Yeah, I don't know how you implement that in a game though. That's the tough part. Because it's so dynamic, and that's when a game freaks.
The chemistry engine.
What is that?
So have you played Breath of the Wild?
The chemistry engine? Yeah, I played it.
Yeah. So chemistry engine in Breath of the Wild is like how elements interact with each other. So like the physics engine is how like you physically interact with the world and how the world interacts with itself. That's cool. The chemistry engine is like the thing that says like, okay, it's raining. So if you put out a flaming weapon, it's going to put the fire out on your weapon. And also, if you have a metal weapon and it's a lightning storm, there's a high exactly.
Yeah, dude, you're just eating frogs so you can climb things.
Yes, that kind of system in Pokemon would be phenomenal, and that's how we have those kind of gym battles.
We kind of did we have that in Breath of the Wild? I'm getting these mixed up. In Legends Arceus, I feel like there was some slippage.
Yeah.
In the rain, was there even rain? I'm probably just mixing these games up.
There's rain, but I don't like. I think the rain interacts with the game in the same way that rain currently does, which I think was also cool in Scarlet and Violet, for the record, where it's like you'll be playing through a gym and I'm doing this 2v2 Nuzlocke or Soul Link, but Nuzlocke is just easier for people to understand that are not Pokemon fans. And like we'll be all playing through a gym and it's raining in mine. I'm battling freaking the water gym and it starts raining. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm the only person that it's raining for, and my Pokemon are out here getting one shot. But that's so sick that like I can play through the game and it's like, oh, it started raining for me. Oh, it started raining for you. It got sunny for me, and I'm like, that's dope. Having more moments like that would be incredible.
That's so true. I mean, when we think, we were talking about like how Pokemon always iterates more and more elements into every new game that they put out. And something that has been there since the very beginning has been the weather feature, right? That's something that was
since Gen 3.
Since I think it was like really good in Gen 3, but like there was like you could use Gen 2, Gen 3. Since then,
I don't think weather was in Gen 2. I think they introduced it in Gen 3.
I'm pretty sure there was Sandstorm. I might be mistaken. I'm thinking about Sandstorm on Tyranitar, and I think Politoed had Rain Dance. I could be wrong.
People in comments.
Come on, leave us a comment. Come on,
yeah,
give us the free engagement. Yeah, I'm making this up. I'm just trying to like play stupid. Anyways, yeah. So that's been something that's been around for a while, and they have continued to implement it. And I think whenever they introduced like the terrain battle mechanic, that was really cool too. That felt like a progression of that.
When they had the pledge moves, I thought that was like the start of the, like, if just every move worked like that, that would be that much closer to that system in the game.
I didn't even know that. I never thought of it. So it's called the chemistry engine. That is so. I'm gonna look into this. When
look up the they did a GDC talk on the development of Breath of the Wild. Watch that; it's incredible.
All right. I got that tucked away. I'm going to check that out. But when I see things in other games, when I realize their potential, when I see that they have already accomplished something, that gives me faith, because a lot of what we do on Hidden Power is just like speculate based on what we would like to enjoy. But I don't always know if it's possible. So you just putting a name to these Breath of the Wild features, that's honestly really, really great.
I need to like play through this game entirely, but I think like the proto, like outside of like what Breath of the Wild does really well, I think the proto, like what Pokemon should be in the end game, is like Final Fantasy VII.
Remake. Okay.
I think they did.
Yeah, tell me about that, because they did Final Fantasy. They did a remake, Final Fantasy VII remake, and then they did what was it called?
Rebirth. That's the one that just came out. Yeah.
And so is that that's basically like a sequel? I think it's like a remake.
It's like, I don't know how much of this is spoiler. I'm not. I'm not.
Tell me. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I'm not a big RPG guy, so I never played the original game.
Yeah.
But I do know that the original game was a turn-based game, and this one is not. But it is kinda. Okay. You know, like like Kingdom Hearts is kind of has like a little turn-based vibes, where like you're scrolling through the menu and you're like, this magic thing right there. It's sort of like that.
Okay.
Where you still have like the menus of like, oh, I'm gonna do the cross slash, and like I use my freaking materia, I think it's called.
Okay.
Like that kind of stuff. So it has like RPG vibes of like their systems and levels matter and numbers pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
But you still can engage with the game in a way that you would an action game, where it's like, okay, well, I want to avoid this attack, so I'm moving over here.
Yeah.
And
maybe there is space for like the legend style games to actually be more of that like action element, because they are action RPGs, but they still lean on that.
To me, I think the opposite should happen. I think that there should be a separate series for not current, but like old school Pokemon fans. I think it makes more sense, and it's more lucrative for them to say like, so I talked about I don't remember which video this is.
This is 2017.
But I talked about how I think, and I've probably talked about it in multiple videos, but I think Pokemon Home was like,
they're
out.
We've talked about this.
Pokemon Home was their out, where they could have been like, okay, it's Showdown. Pokemon Home is Pokemon Showdown, and if you still want to play like whatever generation style of game you want to play, it's right here.
Yeah,
you know, like
they should have done that. But I think I'm totally on board with you. That makes the most sense. Pokemon Home should have a ton of features. It should have mini games. It should have Pokemon Me built into it, right? So you can interact with your Pokemon. But I think what has happened, they've decided that the new generation, right, Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, those games that's the hub game, right? That's the game where you bring everything into home, and then into that game to then do competitive battling, to do the online shiny hunting events, to do the online raids.
But the problem is they aren't a hub, because you can't use every Pokemon.
That's so true. Yeah.
So that's why it's like, to me, I think that they just like, I don't know, it's like Pokemon Black and White art style, because people want pixel back. That's like the like apex of pixel art for them. That's the furthest that they went. They're doing like 3D-ish animations and the Pokeball thing and everybody like if they just have this little, like
microcosm.
Of like, okay, all you retro Pokemon fans that really want us to make pixel Pokemon games, it exists in Pokemon Home. Instead of it being $16 a year, it's like, I don't know, $5 a month or something like that. They could probably go higher depending on how much they do. Like if there's like full on, you know, how like they'll every once in a while there'll be
but
like
how would that work? Is it
MMORPGs that pop up?
How would that work though? Are these like new game? These are new experiences you're saying that exist in Pokemon Home, or
not
Pokemon Home gives you access to it?
Yeah, so Pokemon Home would basically operate like Showdown, where it's like you can play whatever style of game that you want with the Pokemon that you yourself caught, and you know that whole thing.
So you're just talking about like battling and interacting. I was thinking the actual story, because I'm like, they're just gonna put out a brand new game.
Story like totally. Maybe what they do is like they integrate it with like NSO or whatever it's going to be next generation, and it's like, okay, you can also play Gen 1 through 7 on this console in the NSO or whatever, and you can use the Pokemon that are in Home or whatever. Rather than continuing to make new games, because I think a lot of the time, and like obviously there's exceptions to this. I feel like you're an exception to this, where people that say like, oh, I want like the old games, I want them to like make pixel art Pokemon games. They don't necessarily want entirely new games. They just like the Pokemon that they like.
No,
like
I want entirely new games. Yeah.
I
was like, okay, what if, like, you ever just get visions? I'm like, they're never right, but I get the vision where it's like where you're like, okay, I can actually see it actually happening in front of me. This sounds so stupid saying I have a vision, but anyways, like, and it was right before the Pokemon Presents, and I was like, what if? I'm like, I could see them being like, here's a brand new Pokemon, and it's like really close up, and then they zoom out, and all of a sudden you realize the brand new Pokemon that you don't know what it is. It zooms out, and it's a pixel art game, and it's like, this is the third game, the sequel in the Black and White series or something like that. I'm like, that'd be incredible, dude. You know, and they kind of did that because Legends Arceus was like a new type of game where they're revealing brand new Pokemon. So I'm like, I do think if they were to go back and experiment with these different games, they could give us
Meltan.
Yeah, Meltan exactly, dude. Meltan and Pokemon Go. That's crazy. Again, that was another so. I don't know. It gets me excited, but there's no evidence it's gonna happen. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it's like there's such a charm to it in series like Mario and Zelda, which are relevant. Like
we have both.
Yeah. They do the 2D stuff. They do the experimental stuff. They do the AAA, open world, cutting edge game of the year type of stuff as well. So I think Pokemon's moving in that direction. I think Game Freak, coming off the back of only doing pixel art and only doing, what is it, 270 or whatever.
Were you talking about like the resolution?
Yeah, just like making games that are only
like
on
480i.
On the smallest screen possible to making HD games. There's a little bit of a learning curve, and by little bit I mean 10 years.
It's giant. Nobody. I don't think there's a single like studio that we know of that made that jump. They're the only one where like all they did was make handheld games, and then they started making full 1080p.
Which is crazy to think that as big of a thing, as big of a cultural phenomenon as Pokemon was, it was always on handheld. That's like kind of crazy when you do think back. And the creators were always like, it'll always be on handheld because it's made to be shared and to be on the go.
Hey,
that's their philosophy.
Not wrong.
Yeah,
they're not wrong.
It still is.
Still a handheld.
That's crazy. All right, man. Well, let's move on over to the Patreon part of the show. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Could you tell everyone where to find you?
Head to shop.watchredirect.com. It has everything on there.
Okay.
There's like the watch page where it has all my YouTube videos uploaded. There's the follow page, has all socials linked.
Yeah.
Also, you get merch. Like
the merch is sick. Honestly, I love that you also have they're it's Pokemon merch with redirect. I love it. I love it so much.
It's true. We got Mario now too, and Zelda's coming next.
I love it, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being here. I've been a huge fan of yours for a long time, so it's a pleasure to have you, man.
I would be down to come back whenever. This is fun.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully we get some new information about Pokemon Legends ZA soon. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Go check out AJ. and we'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.
Goodbye.